Hi, I'm Pedro Aponte. Today we have Chief Stevens with us. He is going to talk about Halloween, safety, and trick-or-treating.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you for inviting me here today. Halloween is probably one of the most fun holidays for kids, but for policemen and for parents, it's one of the scariest. Not because of who's going to knock on our doors, but a lot of bad things can happen if we're not very careful of what we're doing and how we do it. I'd like to ask you if you have any questions. We can get into the questions and I'll try to give you some answers.
What are some important considerations when dressing up in Halloween costumes?
Well, you might not like some of these, but I'm going to give them to you anyway. Number one, when you're wearing your costume, don't let it drag around your feet. What is the worst thing? If you're trying to cross the street or you're walking near an intersection, you trip on your costume and you can fall down, hurt yourself, or even get hit by a car.
What is a better alternative to wearing masks and why?
Okay, we're going to be showing you a very nice video at the conclusion of this interview, and it's a McGruff video, and it tries to explain. You can buy some very nice masks, but they have a couple of downfalls. One, they're a lot of money, and it costs your parents probably half a week's paycheck to buy some of the more fancy ones. But they also reduce your visibility, and it makes it very hard for you to see, and it makes it unsafe, especially when you're around in traffic.
Discuss some important safety measures to take when going to trick-or-treating.
Let's just use some common sense. We all know the kids go to school and you get the basic safety lessons about stranger safety. But sometimes around the holidays, especially Halloween, we forget some of them. Like, would you take, on an ordinary day, would you take candy from a stranger? I don't think you would. But on Halloween, you go knocking on doors. Simple things like, if you find something that is not wrapped by the company, not in its original package, would you eat it? Or would you take an apple? We want to think that no one would do anything bad to our kids, but we have to be very, very careful. Common sense things. And in the dark, can we carry a flashlight? Especially for our younger brothers and sisters, keep an eye on our brothers and sisters, and we should always be with our parent when we go trick-or-treating.
And finally, what should you do if someone you don't know asks you to come inside their home while you're trick-or-treating?
That's a very good question. And we're going to go into that with the video. But just remember, would you go into any stranger's home? You don't have to be fresh, you don't have to be rude, just say, just no thank you. I am not allowed to go into the home, into your house. And then tell your mother, tell your father, and contact the police and give them a phone call. There are many other issues we really didn't touch on today, but basically, we want you to have fun, but you also have to remember, it's a time when you have to be extra safe, extra careful, and just use common sense and always talk with your mom, your dad, your grandmother, or an adult. And be very, very careful and enjoy yourself.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Rossioli from Teen Vid News. Today we have a special guest, Mrs. Leach, who is going to be talking to us about the Halloween fair that's going to be held next weekend. Mrs. Leach?
Thank you, Mrs. Rossioli. On Saturday, October 31st, we are having our 4th annual Halloween fair at the McMahon Field at Southbridge High School. This has been a very successful program for the last 3 years, with about almost 2,000 people attending each year. This year, we're doing it a little bit earlier in the evening because it is actually Halloween Day or Halloween Eve. And so the Halloween fair is going to be held from 4 to 6 p.m. at McMahon Field. The event is for children through grade 5 and their families, and we hope you all try and come out to it. From 4 to 6 o'clock throughout the entire event, we have a health tent which is open, which has safety and health information. There is fingerprinting. We have many service organizations that also bring information for families. The police department does fingerprinting. The fire department will have their safety information on fire safety there also. At 4 o'clock, the children's games also get going. The students from Southbridge High School will once again be running all of the children's games. They've done a fantastic job in the past, and the children really enjoyed them. The high school students often say that they have as much fun as the young children do while they're actually running these activities with them. Something that's going to be new and exciting this year is Southbridge High School is going to be having the haunted halls of SHS. At 5:30 in the evening, towards the end of our event, they're going to be opening up the hallways and giving tours of the hallways that have been decorated by each class of students at Southbridge High School. At 4:30, Posey the Clown is going to be there to put on a show for the children. She is compliments of the Massachusetts Tobacco Control Program, so we'd like to thank them for that. At 5 p.m., once again, we'll have our Horribles Parade. We will have trophies in several different categories. We're also looking to see if we can have a family category this year. So if any of the mums and dads want to dress up with their children, that would be something new and might be a lot of fun for you. During the parade, we're also going to try another new activity this year. We're going to be distributing candy at that point. And many of the organizations in the community have asked us, how can we get involved with the Halloween fair? And this is one way that we've come up with. Several organizations, community organizations, as well as the Southbridge Police Department and the fire department will be distributing candy during the parade itself. Children who come also get free hot dogs and get a free drink, so we're hoping that everybody's going to have a great time. Please come out. If you have any questions, you can contact Officer Cindy Avansky, who is coordinating this at the police department, at 764-5420, or you can call me at the Southbridge School Department at 764-3809. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Halloween began more than 2,000 years ago among the Celtic people of Britain and France. As the days became colder and darker every autumn, the Celts made up a story to explain why winter came and all the crops and flowers died.
The Celts believed in a sun god who made the crops grow, but each year the sun god was attacked and held prisoner for 6 months by an evil power called Samhain. Samhain, also known as the Lord of the Dead and as the Prince of Darkness, brought the cold and darkness of winter days.
On October 31st, Celt priests held a New Year ceremony to mark the weakening of the sun god and the triumph of Samhain. The priests wore long, flowering white robes and met on hilltops to light bonfires. Sometimes the Druids would hurl animals and prisoners into the fires to please the cruel Samhain. The fire was strong and hot like the sun, and the Druids felt sure that evil spirits would fear the fire. The priests thanked the sun god for the last good harvest, and at midnight they asked Samhain to let brightness and warmth return to the earth.
The Celtic people, meanwhile, feared the night of October 31st more than any other night of the year. They were sure that evil spirits lurked everywhere, and they started fires in their homes to keep the evil spirits from coming inside. They believed that Samhain called dead people together and turned them into other forms, especially cats. To keep Samhain happy and to keep the evil spirits away, the Celts would put on frightening costumes made of animal skins. Often this festival of honor, Samhain, lasted 3 days.
When the Romans conquered Britain and France, they added to the Celtic Samhain festival. The Romans had 2 festivals called Feralia and Pomona Day that gradually blended with the Samhain festival. Feralia was a festival to honor the dead. On Pomona Day, Romanians would spread out apples and nuts to show their thanks for a good harvest. The Halloween costumes of bobbing for apples comes from the Romanian ceremonies on Pomona Day.
The Catholic Church contributed the name Halloween to all these traditions. November 1st is the Catholic holiday of All Saints' Day, which honors all saints who died for their faith. The night before All Saints' Day, October 31st, was called All Hallow Eve. Eventually, this name became shortened to Halloween. I'm Joanna Alisi and Amanda Degnan reporting for Teen Vid News.
We will now pause for these public service announcements.
In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or shelter to the homeless. There is no ordinance forcing you to visit the lonely. In fact, nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have to provide anything for anybody. Thank you for all you've given. Imagine what more could do.
One of the reasons lions roar is to warn threatening bachelor males from other prides to stay away from their young. Here, a lion cub gets a lesson in proper roaring from its father. Teaching this behavior is not just crucial to the pride, but also to the survival of the species. Just a reminder how important it is for fathers to spend time with their children.
The black of the witch's coat and the orange of jack-o'-lanterns remind us that Halloween was once a harvest festival as well as a festival of the dead. Orange and deep yellow are the colors most common in ripened fruits, vegetables, and grain. In the language of colors, orange is a symbol for strength and endurance. Together with brown, it stands for autumn and harvest. It is also the color of flames that once rose from dark hilltops on October 31st to ward off evil spirits. Today, in most countries, black is the color for death. From earliest times, people feared the night, robbing them of the power to see clearly. It ruined familiar objects into frightening shapes. In its blackness lurked the threat of death from an evil spirit, another person, or a wild beast. The Druids established the night of October 31st as the gathering time for the spirits of death and evil. The witches of the Middle Ages were thought of as the evil beings who flew through the night to secret meetings, one of these on Halloween. No wonder that the witch has come down to us in stories and legends, cloaked in black, the color of death and night, her companion, the black cat.
The mysterious bat, a creature of the night, seldom seen at close range, and the only mammal that flies. The bat found its way into Halloween long ago. Early pictures of witches show them worshiping a horned figure that sometimes had the wings of a bat. Bat blood was an ingredient in the ointment that witches rubbed on their bodies before attending a Sabbath. The wings and entrails of bats went into their brews. When the Christian Church of the Middle Ages waged its war on pagan religions, any creature related to them came under suspicion. Bats, like cats, had been sacred to the Norse goddess Freya. Now they were linked to witches, another proof they were evil. Bats were frightening in themselves. Their heads had weird shapes. Some were like the heads of bulldogs. Others looked like miniature bears with long, menacing, pointed teeth. And what enormous wings they had. With a body only 2 inches long, a bat might have a wingspread of 1 foot. Bats could fly about on the darkest night, guided, it seemed, by some mysterious evil power. How else did they find their way? They took cover in dark caverns or the depths of a forest, in empty barns or abandoned houses. By day they hung upside down from branch, roof, or ceiling, their wings draped around them like witches' cloaks. A few kinds of tropical bats are dangerous. One is the vampire bat, which lives on the blood of other animals, including humans. Most bats are useful, though. They eat vast numbers of harmful insects. Flying through the night, bats emit high-pitched sounds that strike objects in the path of their flight. Echoes bouncing back enable the bats to avoid collisions. Most bats are useful, though. They eat vast numbers of harmful insects. Flying through the night, bats emit high-pitched sounds that strike objects in the path of their flight. Echoes bouncing back enable the bats to avoid collisions. Modern scientists call this radar. In the days of the witch hunts, however, little scientific knowledge of animals existed, and what people did not understand, they naturally feared.
Artists in the Middle Ages often showed witches preparing to fly up to one of their Sabbaths. They were usually rubbing themselves with something or being rubbed by someone else. This was the flying ointment. Angels and devils were supposed to be able to fly, so it was easy to believe that witches too could fly. Many witches believed it themselves. Before setting out for a Sabbath, they rubbed a sacred ointment into their pores. This gave them a feeling of flying. If they had been fasting, this ointment made them even giddier. Those who were well off rode on horseback. Poor witches went on foot. With them, they carried a broom or pole for vaulting over brooks, streams, or thorny patches. In England, when new witches were initiated, they were sometimes blindfolded, smeared with flying ointment, and placed astride a broom. One substance in the ointment confused the mind, another speeded up the witch's pulse, still another numbed the feet. When the master whispered, "You are flying over land and sea," the new witch took his word for it. The other witches began a chant, "Horse and haddock, horse and go, horse and Pilatus, ho ho." No wonder that the Halloween witch is often pictured riding or holding a broomstick.
Hi, I'm Nathan with the Southbridge High Sports Wrap-Up. First off, the varsity football team, Southbridge, was 5-0-1 going into their game at David Prouty. The Panthers handed the Pioneers their first loss with a 17-7 victory. Southbridge has to win all of their 4 remaining games to contend for the Super Bowl. The boys varsity soccer team finished the season at 8-8-1 with a 5-5-1 record against teams in their own league. Jesse Plouffe led the team with 12 goals. They finished their season on an up note with a 5-0 shutout at Uxbridge. The JV girls soccer team, which will become a varsity sport next year, continued the year at 3-7-1. They were shut out 5 times this season and only hope to improve. The first year cross-country team finished at 1-12 on the season, going 0-5 in their own league. The golf team won 9-0 their last 2 games of the year to finish at 7-10-1. Finally, field hockey. The varsity team finished on a 2-game slide and finished 4-6. Liz Ortiz led the team with 5 goals. Also, we'd like to note that the Pioneers football team will play October 30th at home versus the Lesser Wolverines. The game will be taped and later aired here on Channel 11. This is Nathan DeBrill reporting for Teen Vid News.
Hey kids, Teen Vid News is looking for some kids with talent. If you can sing, dance, or play a musical instrument, Teen Vid News is looking for you. If you want to be on Teen Vid News, just write to us at Teen Vid News, 1 Mechanic Street, care of the Southbridge Police Department, Southbridge, Mass. 01550. Or you can call us at 765-1525 and leave a message.
Here's my nephew Scruff about to run into trouble again.
Hey, Bobo, where's your video game? In here. Oh, look at this. Uh-oh. It's my dad's. You want to hold it? What'll I do?
If you get my new comic activity book, More Adventures with Scruff, you'll find out what you can do about bullies and guns. And you'll see lots of games.
Cool.
For your free copy of my new comic activity book, just write Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652, and help take a bite out of crime.
I want it. I want it.
20 kids. For 1 hour a week, you leave your concrete world of flip phones and faxes and talk to 20 kids about how business works. They will question everything, but those 20 kids will talk to 20 more. So by Saturday, what you said on Thursday could be halfway around their world. You get to make a difference. Could just make the rest of your week pretty dull. That's the new JA, teaching kids how business works.
Hi, I'm Tony. Today I am interviewing the candidate for 6th Worcester District House of Representatives, Mark Karen. Mr. Karen, how many towns are represented in the 6th District?
Kind of a candidate test. If I don't know this one, I probably shouldn't be seeking the seat. But there are 5 towns represented in the 6th Worcester District. All of Southbridge, all of Charlton, half of Sturbridge, which is Precinct 1, one precinct in Oxford, Precinct 2, and 2 precincts in Dudley, 3 and 4.
What are the qualifications for being a state representative?
The qualifications for this race are that you must be 18 years old, you've had to have lived in the representative district for at least a year, and as it comes down to the final end, to the final wire, you have to have more votes than the other guy.
Do you have to be rich to be a politician? And where does the money come from to run an election?
The requirements are that you don't have to have attained a certain material wealth in order to run. I would tell you that running a campaign, a successful and sincere campaign, does take an awful lot of time and discipline. I would tell you that in my experience here, it probably does advantage those who are that do have money. The money comes from to run a campaign under this process is that there are people who will contribute to your cause. You have approached them, made an appeal, they agree with you, and they would like to see, or have chosen you to be their candidate, so they would like to contribute. That's usually where most of the money comes from, individuals or groups who side with your point of view and would like to see you win as their representative.
What is your opinion on the recent low scores of the test of the prospective teacher?
That's an interesting question. And this is an issue that's come up a lot in this campaign year, in this election year. This is the first. I think it's important for everybody to understand, teachers, administrators, the public, students, to realize that this is the first year of teacher testing. I believe that the motives are okay. We want to make sure that teachers enter their field with some basic knowledge skills, so that when they face our students, our kids, that they are competent in core educational areas to be able to do that. Does this test tell you or tell the public that by passing or failing this test you will or will not be a competent teacher? I don't believe so. A test alone, a written test alone, will not be the sole indicator of what will and what will not make a good teacher. It's important for us to realize that this is the first year in. Our training institutions have not yet had an opportunity to change their curriculums and their training methods for those prospective teachers to meet the test standards. And I think that's why we see so many failings. And those would be indicative of the low scores. We did have those who did pass. And I think for those who did pass, a credit to them and also to the public. I think there's more to be seen in the teacher testing.
Do you think the teachers' tests are fair?
The teachers' tests are fair if the training institutions have had enough time to view the test, have their input on what will be tested of these people, and have tailored their curriculum so that they could successfully pass this test. We shouldn't be asking people questions of which they have not had proper preparation for. The test here in Massachusetts, I also believe, if we're really testing basic core fundamentals and knowledge, is that on a national level we should probably be looking at this. And as teachers are certified, they should be certified nationwide. We have a lot of teachers who have an opportunity to move or do move and wish to apply their skills in other states. There's not a lot of recognition from state to state on this particular issue. If that teacher test and the passing of the test, it will be relevant and applicable in their state. So I think we need to look at this with caution and again have these written tests take its proper priority in the total certification of teachers and their ability to teach.
If the students of Wells Junior High wanted to sponsor a bill, how would they go about doing it?
Tony, if the students here wanted to sponsor a bill, they would look for support for their idea or recommendation. They would look for support from either a representative or a senator in either one of those halls to sponsor their bill. And that sponsor would then take the bill to the clerk of their established hall, whether it be the Senate or the representative side, and it would be assigned a number. That bill now has a number to be acted on. It is then submitted to a standing joint committee which is comprised of members from both the House and the Senate, and they review the bill, put it up for a public hearing. And that's the opportunity for the public and supporters and or opponents of that bill, prospective bill, to have their say on why it should or should not be considered. After the public hearing process is completed, they meet in an executive session to themselves and deliberate what has been presented, all the information they have, and whether it is their recommendation that it be with recommendation to pass or with recommendation not to go forward. If it goes through recommendation to pass, it goes back to the hall of which it originated, either the Senate or the representative side, and goes to the Ways and Means Committee. And that's the Ways and Means Committee determines what economic or financial impact that this particular bill would have. After it gets, and they also make a recommendation of whether it's worthy of this kind of economic impact, both plus or minus. And again, now it goes through to the originating hall and goes forward through a 3-reading process, which is similar to the town council's three readings. This bill goes forward and it's ready for input or debate. And it's usually at the last and the 3rd reading that it gets the most scrutiny, because now it's almost ready to become engrossed or enacted. And upon being successfully debated and passed by the House, it goes to the other side of the hall. I'm sorry, if it originated in the House, we'll just say it originated in the House. Then it would go to the Senate, and they would go through a similar process. And if it's passed there, now you've got consensus from both sides of the institution, the State House there. It then goes forward to the governor, and it waits there for his signature. And he can either sign it or veto it. And there's some waiting periods. There's some more complicated political structuring, if you will, depending on how particular people feel about a bill. But in a nutshell, that's the general progression of a piece of legislation.
Do you believe in charter schools?
There are 2 types of charter schools now that we recognize here in the state of Massachusetts. One is a traditional charter school, and the other is a Horace Mann charter school. The differences in the 2 are this. The traditional charter school can establish itself and is free from any control that is currently set aside to control public education. They're not under the guise of your local school committee. They're not under the guise of your administration, and they're not under the guise of any established teachers organization. What it is at that point, in a nutshell, in my opinion, is public dollars for private schooling. We don't have the control. I think if public dollars are going to be spent, they need to be spent in public schools. So I do, although I don't embrace the charter school, the traditional charter school example, I do embrace and actually encourage the Horace Mann charter school concept. Horace Mann charter schools, on the other side, are public charter schools that are under the control of your school committee and administration, and under the guise and control of those teachers who teach in those charter schools are also under, usually, in their organization too. Now this is public dollars spent in public schoolings for a determined and recognized need. There's a concept in Brockton which actually addresses and established a Horace Mann charter school with their teachers organization. And they have looked at using the charter schools concept to address an at-risk population and an out-of-school population in order to attract these students back into school or to keep them there so that they can come to actually attaining their high school diploma and hence making themselves more job ready and a stronger candidate in the job market.
If you could say one thing about America's schools and use, what would it be?
They are by far the most valuable resource America has towards tomorrow's future. I don't know if we can expand on that anymore. It is just the money we invest here, not spend, invest here, will dictate how well we are shaped for tomorrow's future.
What are your main issues in this election year?
I believe the main issues in this election year, as it faces and as is concerned to this race, are the needs of the people in the 6th Worcester District. For the first time in 8 years, they've finally had a choice. Up until this time, there has not been a challenge to this particular seat. One of the issues is that proper representation, a choice of representation, the fact that you do have a choice, and there are some distinct differences. I believe here in the 6th Worcester District, we need to further economic development. By that I mean we need to further economic development by making sure we become more business friendly. We need to do that by by strengthening our education systems so that the training and the education that is coming of the students that are coming out of these schools and into post-secondary education systems and even into the job market directly will fit the bill, will fill the needs of those companies needing your skills and have the opportunity for you to put them to work. We need to expand the middle class tax base, and by that I mean the more people that can contribute and work and not have to make use of the social programs that we have, the better off we are. The better prepared we are, the better off we will be. We can help expand the tax base and workers in the workforce by sometimes offering some who have felt that they have been shut out of that environment because they have children that they need to care for and can't find adequate or affordable daycare. Those are some of the things I think that we could help out in this quasi-public-private type endeavor to get people into the workforce. I think we need to recognize that these people are available to work if they can feel safe that their children are being well taken care for and that they can afford to do that. The other thing we can do is job training. There are people, and the news has been covered with these instances of companies shutting down, jobs that are no longer applicable or skills that are no longer applicable in industry. These people now find themselves in a layoff situation with skills that they had attained that are no longer useful. We need to make sure that there are job training facilities available and opportunities available so that they can retrain using the skills that they do know, and the knowing that they're critical thinkers and they can apply themselves in a new direction with new skills, and that they do have the aptitude to pick up new skills. We need to make sure that this services both industry, who has a need and a market and capacity which needs to be filled. The classified ad sections are expanding every day. Companies and technology is racing. We need people to fill those jobs and that capacity so that we can grow our economic prosperity here in the 6th Worcester District, and we can remain competitive throughout in the Commonwealth and through the country. And quite frankly, we can contribute to America's position as one of the world leaders in industry and manufacturing in the world. That we have a unique place to play here. We have fiber optics research and development that is going on down in the AO complex. I also believe we have a bunch of entrepreneurs in the machinist industry that could do more if they had more talent. As director of the School to Career effort back last year, I had brought together an effort to get industry and public education together so that the curriculum that you people are being presented, or that students are being presented, has some relevance into the marketplace. It's nice to be told that, listen, you're going to learning this because you'll be tested on it, but a test doesn't say where it's going to be applied. What's it worth in my life? That's the effort for School to Career. I also believe School to Career needs to play a bigger role in public education, and it's well positioned to do that. I also believe we need to do our part in making sure that everybody in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but more importantly in the 6th Worcester District, has available to them health care. They need affordable and accessible health care. And then we need to make sure that tax breaks are put in place when appropriate and if appropriate. And I believe if we build on those things I just spoke about, that we will be in position to lower the tax rate for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Karen, and good luck.
Thank you, Tony.
I'm Tony Damaris, reporting for Teen Vid News.
Don't you love that safe, free feeling you get in a pickup truck, Larry?
Yeah, nothing but you, me, the open road, a deer.
Yeah! A cow! Yeah! An ostrich! The village people! The village people?
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Especially in pickup trucks.
I didn't know the village people were doing a road tour.
Where's Michael?
National Guard duty.
Ah, bet he's just sandbagging.
I don't think so.
Sure he is. He left us with all the big fires to put out.
Over 52% of our military is made up of the National Guard and Reserve. They serve in times of war and in times of disaster. And the jobs they perform are hard enough, without you making it harder.
Well, let's hope he's ready for some late nights when he gets back.
Please support your employees in the National Guard and Reserve.
Hi, I'm Felix Licia. Today I'm interviewing the candidate for the 6th Worcester District's House of Representatives. With us today is State Representative Dave Peters. Dave, as House Minority Leader, has served as this district's representative for 8 years. Welcome, Representative Peters.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today, Felix, with you.
What would be a typical day for you in Boston?
Well, that's a good question, Felix. It's a long day. It starts early. I get up, I commute about an hour and 20 minutes to my office. I'll get into my office and check my messages and calls, and there'll be calls from constituents in the district that need help. I'll return those calls and see if I can't help those people. We handle about 2,000 calls a year to my district asking for help. At 11 o'clock, we usually go into session on the House floor and go over the bills for the day. As House Minority Leader, I'll have a caucus in the morning, go over the calendar of things that are going to be on the legislative agenda for the afternoon. If it's Monday at 12 o'clock, I have a meeting with Governor Cellucci, and we go in and we talk about the legislative issues that will be dealt with that week. We talk about his administration for a while. In the afternoon, we'll go back onto the House floor. We'll debate issues. During the course of the day, I'll work on projects. We funded $21 million in schools for the town of Southbridge, and those are projects that I'll routinely work on, working with local officials, trying to make sure that we're getting our fair share of local aid for our roads and bridges, or working on the library down here. A good portion of my day is spent on special projects in the district, and it's a rewarding day. And at the end of the day, I'll travel home. I try to get a little bit of dinner with my family. I have 2 kids in public school. I like to spend a little time on their homework. My family is very, very important to me. And then I'll return additional phone calls at night. But it's a full day. It's an exciting day. It keeps us busy, and I really love it.
How many towns are represented in the 6th District?
We have 5 towns. We have all of Southbridge, all of Charlton. We have part of Sturbridge, part of Dudley, and part of Oxford.
What are the qualifications for being a state representative?
Well, I think the first thing you need is a desire to serve people. You've got to be willing to work long hours. You've got to make sure that you're able to help people when they call you. You really have to like the job because it entails a lot of nights, a lot of weekends. It's more of a career than it is a job, more of a calling, if you would. But the qualifications, I think, is you've got to be sincere, you've got to be honest, and you've got to listen to the people that you represent. I think one of the biggest assets that a state representative has is to listen to people. We do routine office hours here in the town of Southbridge. Once a month we meet out here. Constituents come and see us. They tell us their problems. I also get a meeting with the governor and the Democratic leadership. So as House Minority Leader, it's important for me to stay in touch with the people I represent. So listening to the constituents is important, working hard is important, being sincere, being honest, but you also have to be effective. You need to be able to get things done. The district requires a lot of work. The district needs roads and bridges, they need schools, need funding for their libraries, and I've been able to work with the local officials. We've been able to do things like fund Southbridge schools, do ribbon cuttings for libraries. We're doing a presentation this week for $200,000 for CAFA, the Center for Advanced Fiber Applications. So all of those qualifications help me to do my job. In addition, I've been involved in local government for a number of years. I served as a selectman for a number of years and in local boards and commissions. And all of that background has made me ready and prepared to be state representative. And I've been state representative for about 8 years. And the longer you do it, the easier it gets and the more effective you can be in Boston.
Do you have to be rich to be a politician? And where does the money come from to run an election?
No, you don't have to be rich to be a politician. I wish you did because I'd be rich, Felix, but I'm not. Campaigns are financed through supporters who think you're doing a great job, who want to help you raise money, who want to help you get reelected, and you do what they call fundraising. There's the Office for Campaign and Political Finance that governs the legal raising of funds for the campaign, but it's private money that is given to the campaign, And that money is used to buy signs and communicate with people. This year we've mailed out almost 30,000 pieces of mail, letting people know what we've done, our accomplishments in the legislature for the last 8 years, that we've been cutting taxes and funding education. And that money is used to communicate with the people we represent, to let them know that we're doing the job that we were elected to do.
What is your opinion of the recent low scores of tests of the prospective teacher?
Well, I think we've got to do a better job educating the new teachers. Teaching is a very important profession. I supported the Education Reform Act, which was a change in how we're going to teach our young people. I believe that we need qualified teachers in the classroom, and I think it's important that our teachers are qualified. Working together, we need to make sure that the teachers that are entering the profession are prepared, that they can pass a basic literacy and competency check. And that's where we're going with the Education Reform Act, and I think it's important to the students like yourself, Felix, who deserve a great education. And we got some great teachers out there. We've got some great schools in this district, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing in my district, and I'm proud of the work we've done on the state level. And I think things are moving forward on education.
Do you think the teachers' tests are fair?
Well, I think they need to be fair. And I think it's unfortunate when we have teachers who go through college, and we have colleges who are giving educations to our young people who want to enter the teaching profession, and when we find that these teachers can't pass the test. I think it's a cooperative effort that needs to take place between the teachers and the educational facilities, the Board of Education, the legislature, and the governor's office. And I think we can do a better job at that. I think we are preparing teachers better, but I think it's a cooperative effort. I don't like the finger pointing. I don't like the scapegoating on teachers. We're in this together, parents, students, teachers, and administrators. I was in Southbridge High School about 2 weeks ago, and met with Superintendent Austin, Principal Joe Biley, and I spoke to Carmen Lecanto's class. And I know one thing, we've got first-rate education here out in this district. I want to ensure that the funding is there for our young people, and I think that the quality teachers are a component that we need to make sure is there in order to get that quality education.
If the students at Wells Junior High wanted to sponsor a bill, how would they go about doing that?
That's an excellent question, Felix. The state of Massachusetts is one of the few states in the nation that has the right of free and open petition, which means any member of the legislature is required to file a piece of legislation for any constituent who wishes to file that. They would contact us. They would tell us that they have an idea. They could either submit a bill, which is a typewritten dissertation of the law that they want to propose, or they can just contact us conceptually, and my office will draft the legislation. We'll run it by my legal counsel. I will file that legislation. It will go through the legislative process. It will have hearings. I will ask the people to come in and testify. We've had people come in and testify on bills from this district for 8 years. I meet them in Boston. I take them before the committee, and the bill works its way through the legislature. And I've gotten some great ideas from students, and talking to people is what my job is all about.
Do you believe in charter schools?
I do. We have charter schools that are authorized under the Education Reform Act. I'd like to see more charter schools. I like competition in schools. I think there are innovative programs. I think when you have competition and you have school choice and you have innovative ideas, you're going to have better education. But I don't think charter schools can be at the cost of public education. I'm a strong believer in public education. I went to public schools. I have 2 daughters who go to public schools in this district. I'm a big proponent of education and a big proponent of public schools. But I think charter schools have a role in educating our children.
If you could say one thing about America's school and youth, what would it be?
Oh, I'm optimistic. I'm the internal optimist. I'm sitting here today with you, Felix. We're filming this at Wells School. I'm impressed by you, your capabilities, this interview. I'm very optimistic when I go into the schools. I make it a point each and every year, and have since I've been state representative for 8 years, to go directly into the schools and to talk with our young people, to exchange ideas with them. I'm very optimistic, and I always tell young people, it's important to do what you want to do in your life. You need to be good at it, you need to get up in the morning, and you need to like your job. And it's important for me. I like my job, I love going to work, I'm excited about my job, and I look out across the young people today, and when I talk to them, I try to get them involved in things that they're going to like, so they're going to be excited. But to sum it up, I'm optimistic about our youth, I'm optimistic about our schools, and I'm a great positive thinker.
What are your main issues in this year's election?
Well, I think there's a couple of main issues. First of all, I want to make sure that the economy remains strong. We've had 8 balanced budgets in a row. We want to ensure that we continue to cut taxes so we can return $600 to the average working family in the Commonwealth. It's extremely important. Things are good in Massachusetts. We want to make sure that they stay good. Continuing to fully fund education is very, very important to us. Public safety, it's so important to the people who live out here in the district. I think that public safety isn't a luxury but a right, and we need to continue to ensure that our streets are safe. And of course, bringing more local aid to the community, bringing more money to the cities and towns so they can provide the services. That's very, very important to me. The election is very important to me. We've worked 8 years for this district. I'm optimistic people are going to recognize our accomplishments and the great work we've done for 8 years. I think that people recognize that we're a proven leader, and I think we've gotten some proven results. And this election is about getting that message out there, talking with our constituents, and with their support, I'm going to be elected on November 3rd. Are you old enough to vote now?
No.
Well, I'm going to ask for your vote anyways, Felix. It looks like you're someone who knows what you're talking about, and you're up on the issues. I have a question for you, Felix.
All right.
How do you like going to Wells Junior High?
I like Wells. It's a nice school. It's a clean school. I think we have some nice and very smart teachers, and it's just a really great school to go to.
Yeah. And how do you like being a news anchor for Teen Vid News?
I think Teen Vid News is great. I've been doing it for 3 years since I was in 6th grade here at Wells, and people have told me I've progressively gotten better, and I think that this is great. This is really fun.
Well, Felix, I'd like to invite you and Officer Rosa to come down to Boston to my office, and we can do an interview in my office, and maybe we'll get you an interview with some other important people in the building as well. But you've done a great job here today. Your questions have been tough, but they're important to our re-election. I want to thank you, and I want to invite you to come down to Boston, and I know you're going to have a great future in broadcasting, and I appreciate your invitation that brought me here today. Thank you very much, Felix.
Okay, thank you, Representative Peters, for visiting us at Teen Vid News, and good luck in your re-election this year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm Felix Liesier reporting for Teen Vid News.
You were right, Vince.
Say what?
When you hit a wall going 50 and you're not wearing a safety belt, your head will fit in the glove box.
What do you get when you cross a person not wearing a safety belt with a head-on collision?
What?
Beats me, but it probably looks like this.
What's the first thing that goes through your mind in a head-on if you're not wearing a safety belt?
The steering wheel.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
These are the drugs that you may start to use. And these are the ones I don't want you using.
Drug Abuse Resistance Education.
Keep your friends that are real friends.
Every week, the police officers of DARE are teaching our children how to resist the pressures to use drugs.
Everyone's doing it. No.
Let's get out of here.
No simple slogans with easy answers.
Remember, I want you to stay safe because I want to see you again.
DARE to make a difference.
Thanks for watching Teen Vid News. Send your comments or suggestions to the Southbridge Police Department, 1 Mechanic Street, Southbridge, Mass. 01550.
Or you can call the Cable 11 studio at 765-1525 and leave your message. And we'll see you the next time around.